Hello, and welcome to the When You're podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today I want to talk about when you're in a musical. Because this summer I just, I did a little, little, tiny, small, not in any way, shape, or form iconic musical called Little Shop of Horrors. And it's extremely cool that I did it this year because it's the 40th anniversary of the musical. And I always really liked the musical. I thought it was always fun, and I'm a movie. And spoilers for the show. If you haven't seen the musical, go watch it or go watch the movie. The movie's really fun too. I think it's missing one song in it. I can't really remember right now, but if you look on YouTube, there's multiple versions of the production. But so definitely go watch that. So spoilers for the musical if you haven't watched it. But yeah, this summer was really it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. It was my first time doing an outdoor theater performance, which was really cool. I like doing theater outside. I think it's definitely fun to be, in the sun. Well, we kind of did this one at night, but I like the atmosphere around it. I like people being right there outside and getting to experience that because I've definitely seen outdoor shows in the amphitheater, and I always really liked those. And I like the way that it looks, and it's really really cool. I like it a lot. But for this musical, I want to start by talking about the audition process because we're coming back from COVID. It's a whole new standard now. So we did video. I mean, I guess you could always do video auditions, but this time it was like you have to send an audition mandatory video submission. And this is kind of what like a lot of actors who are going for any role goes through. They go for a just like any kind of character role, or they're looking to get a job or something. They just send in a video submission of their monologue, slate, or maybe a song if they're doing a musical or any kind of performance like that. And for this one, I had to send in a monologue and I sent in a musical number. I did When I Find My Baby from the Sister Act. I thought that was a really fun song for the role that I was auditioning for. And when I was auditioning, I was kind of like, all right, it's either I get this character or nothing else. Because I think I know. I mean, I definitely would have liked to play the character. The character I was auditioning for was Audrey 2, which is the plant in the musical. So, but I ended up not getting the role, which is funny, but the audition process, I think I did really well in. It was one of the first ones that I kind of like sent in via video submission that I was like, okay, this is really good. I should save this, and keep it in my back pocket. Because there's other ones where I'm kind of like, it's a little weird, and I was just kind of like sending it just to send it, not really doing it the right way. But I do really enjoy it, and I think it's a lot of fun. It's a really good number. But I chose to do that song in particular because it has a really deep section, and with such a deep section like that, you have to for the character of Audrey 2, there's a lot of low parts, and I wanted to show that I could hit those notes. I could get down to my lower register and kind of speak like that. But and after you audition, they give you a callback, and you have to go to the callback, and we do a musical section with the musical director, and we do a little dance with the choreographer. And I thought I did pretty well on both. I always just get a little bit nervous during callback or audition periods, just because I get a little too up here and not enough, just relax and cool and be that. But I think I do a little bit better when I'm just a tiny bit nervous. Not so nervous, but just a little bit. And when I got a role, when I finally got the role, and it wasn't the role that I was hoping for, I was kind of like, it's not really worth it. I shouldn't really even do it. It's just kind of like, whatever. But then after a while, I was kind of like, but it could be really fun. And without the pressure of having to be like this big character, it was like an ensemble role. I think I did like 3 separate characters for ensemble, and they were all really fun. They're not big roles and there's not like a whole lot of dialogue. I sing a few songs in the whole musical as a total, but I had so much in my mind that I was kind of like, maybe I shouldn't do it. There's really no point to it. I'm not going to be in the musical that long, and it's not going to be what I want it to be. But eventually, I kind of just talked myself into it, and I was like, this is just going to be fun. Show up every day and just clown around and just bring as much as yourself into each of those characters and just have fun with it. And I think I made the right choice. It definitely would have been. I think it wouldn't have been as fun of a musical if I hadn't been in it, but I had a good time with the people, and everybody was fantastic. And showing up to rehearsals, I mean, I like the rehearsal process. I like showing up every day on time, signing in, making sure that I'm ready to perform, to like bring a certain energy to rehearsals, so that everybody's like knows that I'm ready, and I really really want to, what's the word? I really want everybody to have a good time. I want to make sure that everybody is like super on point. So that way when we perform, when we get to the end result, even if we're not maybe like at 100%, or if we're not like the best version of ourselves that night, maybe we're a little less, the the worst part of us will be like at a 90. You know what I mean? Like just a 10% off. It's not like a huge drop in percentage wise of like performance. So rehearsing every day with like good people and making sure that everybody's like really really working together, and that includes doing choreography and music. The music for this production, I mean, Little Shop of Horrors is already a really great uh musical. It's got a good story behind it, but the music just adds so much weight to each of the performances. To for every song, there's something that I feel like you can relate to in each song of the performances. Whether it's Skid Row, where it's like, yo, I hate it here. I hate waking up early in the morning or going to work or doing this or doing that, where I live, what job I have, the kind of my living situation or whatnot. Or somewhere that's green. We all kind of like have this dream or this reality of this version of ourselves that's like living in this comfortable home and being at the best place that we really enjoy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, like for Audrey, and the song is like a beautiful white picket fence home with like really clean cut grass, and I think more of like a rural space. But it can be, it can also be like a big city for you, or tropical. You know what I mean? So I think that's a way that each song can kind of relate to you and can speak to you. And when we were doing the musical process, I was a little nervous at first because, well, there was a little mishap with our musical director, and I was just like, okay, so without our musical director, it's gonna be kind of difficult to go over all of the music that we have, especially with the band, because we were doing it live. We had a live band with us. We weren't using backing tracks, and that's one of the advantages that we had doing this production, was that it wasn't just a speaker playing the backing track or whatever, and then we add our own audio to it. It was the whole thing is live right there. So you get live drums, you get live horns, you get live percussion, you get a live piano, guitar, all of it. It's all right there. And I really like that, especially when you're outside. You get that. It's really cool to hear live music, especially in a musical production. So when the musical director kind of popped out, we were all like, man, this is really tough, but we rallied together. We worked on our harmonies together. We had somebody step in for us who kind of showed us a better way to really make sure we weren't just reading the music and just like copying what is like uh, already been done, but kind of like really following it along and then adding our own special stuff to it, because everybody has such a unique voice. And sometimes when you have those unique voices, it can be a little difficult to follow what's on the pages. So we did that, and we rallied together, and we really just put our best foot forward, just moving on from music and trusting ourselves with like hitting the notes and to add the choreography in as well. And that's a big part of the rehearsal process, and I really enjoy that. I like showing up every day and learning something new from, maybe it's the choreographer teaches me a new step or something that I'm not very familiar with. Or when we're doing music, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what that means when it's in the sheet music, or this is how you want us to, this is the word you want us to amplify, or really, what's it called? I can't believe I'm blanking on this word right now. Emphasize when we're singing it. There are certain words in the text, in the lyrics of the song, that you have to emphasize for the audience to really get what we're feeling about the song. And that was really good. I think we did a really great job with that. And when it comes down to the choreography, I feel like a lot of the dancing came in the earlier parts. I mean, there's dancing throughout the whole thing, but because I'm on the ensemble, there's very few moments where like the whole cast is like out on stage singing together. So there was a limited number of times where I really got to like show my moves. And when I was doing the choreography, I always felt a little goofy. Not because like I don't trust the choreographer. I think the choreography is really good, but like when I'm up there just kind of like doing it on my own, or I just feel a little silly doing it, because it just kind of like, you look at the audience, like when we eventually did the performance, I was looking out into the audience and I was just kind of like, oh, the man, they're not like, I'm not getting that immediate affection or gratification. Everybody's not like amazed that I'm doing it. They're just kind of like, okay, they're dancing, so I kind of feel a little silly doing it. But all of this is just to say that the rehearsal process is something that I really, really enjoy, just because there's certain people, or I've had moments where I've like worked with people that don't like showing up every day, or they're just kind of like over it. They're like, I get it, we don't have to keep on redoing it over and over and over again, or I feel like we could just straight up just move on, or maybe they're in more scenes than they would like, and it's kind of like, well, this is what, you're really talented, you're really good, you know what I mean, and this is an opportunity to show what you're capable of, and you're kind of just like, I don't want to. And so I always get a little frustrated with people like that, but that's why I can't control what they do or their energy. I can only show what I'm capable of and what I want to do, and bring the energy that I want onto rehearsals and onto set. And I feel like people respond to that very well, and it doesn't make me feel like I'm better than them, or that I'm trying to be like, well, you should act like me. It's just like, you do you, I'll do me, and then we'll see where we go from there. And for the most part, I didn't have that issue during this show. I felt like everybody who was, I mean, you have the normal people who are like tired, but then you have people who are just like not dedicated to it, or just like don't want to be, there that day or whatever. Which, everybody's going through their own thing. I just don't feel like that's me. I like to show up and I like to work. I like to show up and I always think of like, people who work really hard, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and they're just like, you will never outwork me. You will never outwork me. And I'm like, how can I outwork him? You know what I mean? How can I outwork everybody in the room? How can I, be as uh, energetic as possible, so that way when I show up, everybody else feels the exact same way. And that worked a lot. That really helps me to feel in the moment that I'm contributing to the whole production. I think one of the cool things about it is that like nobody can say I wasn't there. Nobody can be like, oh, I don't remember him. I don't remember if he showed up yesterday. It's like, no, I know he did, because he said hi to me. We talked, and then we kind of did our scene together, and he was a lot of fun, And I really like that part of it. And the thing about when you're rehearsing is that you're not always all the time in the space, right? So for this one, we were doing it outside, but we weren't outside for every rehearsal. We were inside, and we were working out all the little uh, kinks on how we were exactly going to block and stage the production. So for like the first 2 weeks, we spent like really learning where we were going to move and like what how our characters were going to move into certain spots. So that way, when we went into the actual stage, we could get all the details fixed then. And that was really cool. I like that. And our stage was completely different than I think. Well, it was two turntables, right? And I like turntables because it's not just like a blank open space and then you just add a bunch of set props or furniture and be like, it's a different day. It's like backstage, you have the crew moving the furniture onto the set and then they spin it around and it's a completely different day. It's a different setting. It's a different, feel to it. And I like that. And that's what we had. And then obviously, it wasn't just those two turntables on stage. We also had a set kind of in front of it, and then we had the rest of the space of the concrete. And what I really, really liked about it was really open and wide, but as big as it was, there was still some problems like backstage about it being a little too tight. There wasn't as much space for everybody to kind of stay huddled together, you know. But we obviously did all we could to like stay out of view of the audience, so that way they were just focusing on the characters on stage, you know, out in front of the audience. And my biggest thing when working on like a big stage or on any stage in general is to just really feel how well I'm going to do on it, because there are certain moments where it's like, okay, this is just a stage and I can use the full stage, and then you're like, well, actually this is where it cuts off because there's going to be a band down in the this pit area where like the band stays, and the musical director will kind of tell everybody what to do in the band. And you're like, well, okay, then I can't be that close, and I also can't be this close because I don't want to accidentally fall off. So you kind of have to be aware of the whole surroundings. But when you're working on outside, it's very apparent where everything is, and it's not so, because there's natural lighting from the sun, and you can kind of just already tell like what the whole space is going to be. And I think on our first day we actually got to go outside and see what the whole thing was going to be like, and I really, really liked that. I thought that was really fun, and again, it was my first time doing an outdoor theater production, and it was really cool to get that kind of feel about it, to really understand what it was going to be. And also, we had different levels. So there are certain times where I feel like, I mean, you can build up indoors. You can have like really tall set pieces inside, but I feel like for outside, we had we had this ladder that went up to a higher platform, and they were doing dances on top of it. Top of there. Not everybody got to go up there for safety reasons, but once you're up there, like, it just adds a whole new thing to it, and it's a lot more fun when you see people up there. Like, I'm backstage and I'm getting ready for the next scene, and I'm sitting on the turntable, and I just look up, and there's the wonderful actresses who are dancing up there, and you're just like, yeah, yeah, go, go. It's so much fun, and it adds a lot to the enjoyment of it, I think. When you can add the different levels to it. You got 3 of them up there, and then you have 2 of them down here, and you're just like, where do I look? It's all fun, and it's all really cool. And depending on the perspective of the audience, if you're like all the way back, you could look at both of them, but maybe if you're a little closer, you have to like, move your neck. But it was really cool, and I like that we added that. It was very, they could obviously just be off to the side, and it would still have kind of the same effect, but it wouldn't. It needed to be like that, and it definitely added some extra space, because beneath that ladder, there's like this whole building section. We called it the Airbnb. It was so funny, and it was just like with chairs and a table for like and costume racks, so that way you could kind of get dressed in there and do for the next scene for your character change. And I really liked that. I really liked our set, and the stage was a lot of fun. And when it came to the lights and the sound, um, there were a few issues. I mean, none of it was like any of the tech's fault or the crew's fault. It was more of like, outside influences. Like it was very windy. And when it gets very windy, the mics can't pick up your voice as well. And you have to really, really project. In an outdoor theater, if they can't hear you, they're just kind of like, what's going on? I don't understand what's happening. What's the deal? And it was pretty early on that I think we kind of like, when we were doing rehearsals, we weren't told to like just stay backstage the whole time. We would go out into the amphitheater and we would watch each scene that would happen. And when we were doing that, it was kind of clear that like without the mics, you definitely need a loud voice. And people who weren't necessarily loud, they were gonna have the most trouble with it. And with the wind as well, picking up on the mics, it wasn't going to work out. But we all kind of rallied together, and thank goodness for our wonderful crew and tech, because they definitely helped make sure that we were able to be heard. Because backstage, I can barely hear what's going on stage, but because where the speakers are set up, I know the audience is going to hear every single word, and the songs are going to be great. Certain mics are going to be amplified because they have solos, and then your mic is going to be turned down just a little bit, but they can still hear you. And when I'm on stage, I can definitely hear, oh, this person's mic is on, mine is kind of low. I need to project more. I need to really speak up, and so that way you can hear my part. If you can't hear my part, then there was no point to musical rehearsal. You know what I mean? If it was just going to be them. So I think about those things all the time when I'm singing, when I'm dancing. Like, don't breathe too hard. You have to kind of don't breathe into the mic so much. But they got it all taken care of up there. You can kind of relax and just be like, when it's your time to shine, it's your time to shine, and they're gonna be ready for you before you even begin. And I like that. And even towards the end of the musical, when I have like a speaking role, I can hear myself from the speakers, and I'm just like, yes. And I definitely project during that moment. And then the lighting was really cool because when we start the production, when we start the show, it's kind of like sunset still. It's not completely dark. We started at like 8 p.m. So when the sun is like barely just going down still, you can still see a nice sunset. And then as the night progresses, as the show continues, obviously it gets a lot darker. And the lights were set up in these towers that were just so cool in multiple different colors. And it really added so much to the show, especially at night. When you're inside of a dark theater, already inside, you can kind of create the space. You can dim it out. You can make it, there's a lot more you can do. When it's outside and it's done really well and it's really dark and the stage is like lit up perfectly, you're just like, oh, that is so cool. It looks really, really fun, and you just can't help but enjoy it. And there are certain moments during the whole thing where I'm kind of like, do I look good like in this lighting? You know what I mean? Because there were some people who were kind of worried because they're a lot like, they're white. And so like when the light hits them, they're like translucent, you know what I mean? They're like vampires, and you're just kind of like, man, put some, so a lot of them were like, I have to put makeup on so that way people can really like see me, I'm not just like a sheet of paper. And I thought that was really funny, and something that I don't have to deal with because I'm a little tan, I'm brown, and I never had to worry about like makeup. So it is what it is. We do what we do, you know what I mean? People have certain advantages on stage. And all I'm trying to say is that the lights and sound were terrific. And the band, oh my goodness, the sound from the band, I'm back there, I'm jamming, I'm dancing to everything that they're doing. You can definitely hear them, no matter where you are on stage, whether it's backstage or all the way at the end of the amphitheater has like kind of like a closed off point, and even if you're all the way at the top, you can definitely hear the band. So everybody gets a little taste of music, and I like that. And all of this would definitely not be possible without the wonderful cast and crew. Um, just this whole cast in general. I mean, there were definitely certain people who auditioned that I wanted to be there and I thought I was going to get to work with, but they had other commitments and they had other things that they were going to do. Too bummed out, but I was still like, man, there's some people I really wanted to work with and some people that I got the privilege to work with. You know, some people stepped in and were able to really cover that role and take over that role, and I was so happy for them that they got to do that. And I feel like this cast was a little like the Little Shop of Horrors is a pretty small cast. They reuse a lot of the actors, but for this one, they added so many people to it that it felt like a bigger cast. It was definitely a bigger cast. And I like that. I like being able to work with more people on stage because I did another production that was like a large ensemble and a large cast, and I was just like, this is right. This feels good. You know, I like working with a lot of people on stage, and because there's just so much more energy you get from the performance when you do it that way, and I really enjoy that. As opposed to, maybe like two or three people on stage and then they kind of like add in an extra three or so. You know what I mean? It's just like it feels so small. It doesn't feel as big, larger than life as it can be. And I definitely like that from this cast. And I worked with some really good people, some good friends that I made, and everybody definitely added their own thing to the show. Everybody did a great job, and we worked with what we had. You know, there were certain things that happened that were very. It kind of just was like, that's a big bummer. But we pushed on through, and we made it. We survived, and I really like that. Everybody in the cast pretty much worked well together. Everybody was kind of friends already from working on previous shows, and everybody kind of already understood where they were. Like everybody already had a relationship with one another is what I'm trying to say, and they kind of gelled together pretty quickly. And then the people that were pretty new, everybody was like, "Oh, they're great. You know, they're doing great work," and it was really fun. And then again to the crew. The crew is definitely the backstage ninjas. You know, they're back there and they're trying to hide, but they're a big part of the show. They're the ones turning the turntables. They're the ones getting people into costumes. They're the ones, prepping the props backstage. They're the ones who are really there to add. And I'm definitely talking to them backstage and being like, "Where's my prop?" or "Where's my costume?" or, "What time do I cross backstage to get to my spot?" or "Do you need help with anything?" I like helping as much backstage or helping the crew out because it makes them feel like, okay, he's not just like an actor. He's willing to participate and be in all forms of theater. He's not just like, well, I'm the actor and I just do the acting stuff and you're the tech and you just do the tech stuff. No, it's like we all contribute to make the best show possible, and I'm somebody who likes to help. I want to make this the best show in the world. How can I make that happen? And when you're definitely doing that, you're like, okay, here's how we make it happen. This is the cool part. This is the fun aspect of doing theater. And if you can't help with like simple stuff like bringing in props to the stage, then you're just kind of like whatever. You know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't help, and it's also just kind of like, you know, don't don't claim to love theater as much as you do if you're not willing to participate in all aspects of it. And that's definitely one aspect of it. You got to help when you're needed, and I like helping out a lot. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes with the crew as well. So a good portion of like my time on set or like during the performance when we're doing the performances, I'm not on stage as much as I am backstage, or it's kind of like equal. So for the most part, when I'm backstage, I'm just like, how can I make it fun for everybody who's like about to go on? How can I hype people up? How can I, give thanks and like congratulations, you did a good job to people while still being silent, unseen, and backstage, and also having fun. And a big portion that contributed to that was just the obviously the band, the music. Having the band there, everybody can dance along. They can sing the songs with the actor on stage. You kind of because of the way the show was set up, somebody was like in one spot the whole time because Audrey 2, which is the plant, there was somebody inside of it like a big puppet, and they were manually operating it. And so every chance I got, I just went up to the guy who was inside, and I was just like, "Yo, you're doing a good job. Do you need any water? Do you need anything to drink? Are you okay? Do you need a fan? What's going on? Are you good?" Because it gets hot in there. It gets really hot in that puppet. And I do the same thing with crew backstage. I'm like, peace, you're doing great. Spin me, safely and soundly. I don't want to accidentally get off the turntable and it's still spinning or wobbly. And then backstage is kind of like this secret space where you can there's a point on the right side of the stage. There's a window and you can kind of see the audience, you kind of can't. And I always try my best to not like peek and look at the audience when I'm on that side of the stage. But I can't help it. I'm just like, what does the audience think? Do they like it? What's their facial expressions? And when I first go out on stage, I don't even look at the audience. I kind of like close my eyes and try to act all sleepy because I play a drunk in the beginning. So I don't even look at the audience. And then when I pass out, I kind of like try to like, with my eyes closed, I try to like peek, just like open my eyelids just enough where you can't see that my eye is open, but where it's like I can see you. And whenever I did that, I would always be like, no, don't do it. You're going to smile. And then I remember I was like sleeping there and I was like pretending to be drunk or whatever. And I was like kind of peek smile. You could like kind of see me like smiling, kind of like, woohoo, because I get excited when an audience is out there and nervous. I get very, very nervous when an audience is out there. But again, it makes me work even harder to like do it the best way possible. So when I'm backstage for a majority of the time, I'm either how can I stay as far away from the audience as possible? Like if I can't see them, they can't see me. There's a big platform blocking me, so you can hardly see me. Or I'm like hanging in the Airbnb, being like, "You're gonna do great. You're gonna kill it out there. Your scene's coming up. I know you're gonna nail your solo." And then everybody else, when they're performing on stage, I'm kind of like backstage and they can kind of see me. And I'm like dancing along with them. I'm just doing everything possible to just like have as much fun as I can during the performances and during rehearsals. Because it can be pretty dead back there. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes you're just back there and everybody's just like, yeah, I'm just here to do a job. I don't really care anymore. I'm tired. I want to go home. This is it. But I'm back there. I'm giving it energy. I'm having fun. And that's all I wanted to do during this whole thing was just how do I have as much fun as possible? And I think during this production especially, I was a lot less focused. I was definitely more fun. I was definitely leaning more towards having fun than I was being like truly professional. Because if I was being truly professional, I wouldn't be, talking or making jokes or doing anything backstage as often as I was during this one. But because it's outside, there's speakers, there's the band right next to me, I feel like I can kind of get away with a lot more. And I can kind of just like play games or have fun and dance and do silly stuff back there that I wouldn't normally do in another maybe indoor production. Because, if I'm on the side and then I'm like talking or making a joke or saying something to somebody else, the audience might hear it unless I'm like whispering. And also because of my mic, they could turn it on at some point. and then they just like hear me being like, "Whoa, what was that? I don't know what that was." And you know, during this whole show, especially, there were so many difficulties. There were so many problems. There were a lot of issues that happened. I said previously that our musical director kind of like couldn't make it anymore, and they were doing their own thing. But I tell you, the last 2 days of this show, we were working on it, and it broke my heart because it was really just it came out of nowhere. I mean, obviously we were in a big pandemic, but one of our actors, the main lead role, got COVID. And I was just like, "Oh no, this can't be happening. This is not good." Because I know I don't have it. I'm good. I'm perfectly fine. But when I got the email from the director, I was just kind of like, "All right, so like what's the worst, it could be?" And then it was the worst it could possibly be. It was our main lead role. And so we had to substitute him in for somebody else 2 days before our first performance. 2 days. And they had already done a production of it. They had already done that character before. And so we were just calling him in to replace. And he learned the blocking, he learned the choreography, and he learned everything in those 2 days. And then on Thursday, it it went it flowed. We did great. It was just really sad that COVID is like what kind of like took that moment away from them, especially because when you're somebody like that, when you're somebody that talented like our lead actor was, you're just like, this is such a big setback. It just like it really pains you and it sucks so much. And this is somebody I know who was really dedicated to the rehearsal process. They were so focused on this character and being this character and putting everything they had into being it. And then what gets it is COVID. It was just a big letdown and it sucked so much. We were all so disappointed. And we still did the performances. And then on our last show, we were supposed to do 4 shows in total, and none of them are matinees. So they're all night shows. On our last day, which was supposed to be a Sunday, the female lead character who plays Audrey, she also got COVID. And it's like, because there's a moment in the musical where they have to kiss each other, so it was like, okay, I understand how she got it. But she did 3 performances, and then on the 4th one, the last one, finale, she gets COVID, and we ended up canceling the whole performances, and we ended up doing a strike, which is just taking down the whole set. And it was actually kind of a blessing. We got to take down the set, a lot sooner, and we didn't have to do it at night. That's the other thing. If we were going to do the performance on Sunday, we were going to do a strike. We were going to take down the set that night, all the way through the night, well, until 2 a.m. But like, if the show ends at like 10, and then like 10:30ish to 11, you kind of like say goodbye to your family or anybody who comes to see the show, and then like around that time you start taking down the set, and it's dark, it's windy, it's cold. You just did a performance, you had to put away all your costumes and clothes, and now you have to take down this whole set. It was kind of crazy to think about. So because we didn't have to do our last show, we didn't have to do strike at night, and we could just have fun. We could just play some music, we could get some water, and we ended up doing like a barbecue afterwards. It was a lot of fun. It was cool. It was also really hot. It was hot, but it wasn't so bad. But COVID, it really just snuck up behind us, because we were all being so careful. We were wearing masks throughout the whole throughout rehearsals. We were really doing our best to like stay COVID safe and friendly, and I wasn't necessarily within anybody's like close distance for most of the show, I think. I mean, I guess there are a few instances where I kind of like talk to people, but I rarely, if ever, am like so close to people until I guess later on when we were outside and we were working with our mics trying to sing. But everybody else was really safe, and the only 2 people that we really knew of that got COVID during the whole production were the main lead and the female lead, which was such a big bummer. And it was like, you work so hard and then you get sick. What can you do? But during our last, we only did 3 performances, and on those 3 performances, I feel like we got better each time. So Thursday we did really good, um, especially with the new lead. But we overcame that pretty quickly. We all kind of grew accustomed to the new lead, and we were all kind of like, okay, let's just do everything we can possible to make it easy for him, and so that way, when we do this role, it's not when we do the show, it's not gonna take a big toll on the person. They're just gonna be like, oh, okay, this is how it goes. This is where I need to be. This is the whole production. And then when we did the first show, it was good, but I feel like we could just step it up a notch. And then Friday's show happened, and then we were like, yes, perfect. I think we really nailed it on Friday. And then Saturday, it was just like, can we do it again? Or even step it up? And then Saturday performance, we did it again. I feel like we got better each performance. I feel like we really were able to grow and become better and better and better. And with each performance, it didn't feel like we were ever what's the word? Out of sync. I think on Thursday we were kind of like, nervous a little bit, but not out of sync with each other. We all kind of knew, like, okay, this is how it's going to go. It's going to be like this. And we're going to add more to it. We're going to be a little bit more pumped and energetic and happy and excited. And we just added a little bit more sauce, just a little bit more sauce to it. And that was really cool. With any performance that you do, I think you just push out a little bit more than you have been at rehearsals. You just give them that little extra flavor, extra piece of just put the sprinkles on top, kind of a deal. And that's what I do. I definitely do that during my performances. I give it just a little bit more, than I have been at rehearsals, because you don't get the same feeling when it's just, maybe your director in the audience, or the producer, or the tech and crew, light and sound up there, or when it's just the cast. Even it's a lot different when you know that there's people out there that are going to watch the show and consume it, and like, if you mess up, you're going to be embarrassed, and you don't want that at all. So I do my best in every performance that I do to just really make it count, and also just have fun. So by Saturday, I think I was having a lot of fun. I was really into it, and I was just not worried about my vocals. I wasn't worried about singing. I wasn't worried about the choreography. I wasn't worried about my lines. I wasn't worried about anything. I was just kind of like, phew, clean cut. Whereas on Thursday, I get a last minute costume piece, and I'm just kind of like, oh no, I almost forgot about the costume piece. So I had to run back to the dressing room and get the costume piece, and then I had to run back onto the stage so I can do my scene. And moments like that are when it's like, you get a little nervous. You're like, oh man, I almost messed up. I could have messed up big there, but I didn't. And you're just like, phew, good thing I didn't mess up. But for this performance, I was really proud of myself, just for like sticking it out until the end and just having fun. That's the biggest takeaway I can say from this experience, from this whole show, was just have fun. Don't worry about, somebody else doing the character you wanted, or worry about like this person maybe not doing as good of a job, I guess, if you could say, like at the character as you like want it to be. You're just kind of like, I can only do what I want to do, and just put as much as yourself into the role as possible is what I did. I made each character I did funny and different. So for the first character I did, I was a drunk. So I'm just like out there sleeping on the floor. I'm drinking as much alcohol as possible. I'm kind of like just all over the place. I'm drowsy. I'm just like, I'm walking really funny. And then I'm like, the next character I'm a dental patient, and I like pain. So whenever they, when you're in the dentist office, when you're getting your teeth cleaned, they put the drill and they start like scraping your teeth, and sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't. And for this character, I enjoy the pain. So when they hurt me and they're like scraping my teeth, they're jabbing into my gums. I'm just like, yes, yes, So I'm like this really crazy guy who enjoys the pain, especially in the mouth. So that tells you a lot. And then for my last character, I'm kind of like this scumbag, like try to get rich scheme sort of a thing, and it was a lot of fun to do that character. I gave it like a little kind of like you ever seen SpongeBob where they're talking about chocolate, chocolate, chocolate? You know what I'm talking about? That old lady, that old, what is it, Barnacle? I don't know what she is, but she talks like this, and you're just kind of like, why is she talking like that? She gives that old granny like that smokes cigarettes and drinks nothing but whiskey, and just I gave that kind of an accent to it, and I was just like, how can I add so much humor to this? And every night I just wore sunglasses. I wore this cheap suit, and I went out there and I was just acting silly, you know. So this whole performance, this whole show really taught me that no matter what role I get or no matter what I do, I can just have fun. It doesn't have to be a big role. It doesn't have to be the smallest role either. But I know that I can have fun and I can do a good job at it. I don't have to take it so seriously as maybe some people do. And yeah, when you're doing a musical, just have fun. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't um try to stress yourself out over how much you're doing. You know, at the end of the day, you got to breathe, relax, and just enjoy it. Don't try to make it so serious. And that's what I did, and I think it's good for anybody out there who's maybe doing their first musical or wants to keep doing musicals. And I love musicals, so just have fun. It's really great. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Win Your Podcast, and I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you.